So, I just watched every single episode of The Adventures of Kid Danger, and it was an experience, to say the least, so let's talk about it. Time for another one of these reviews. You've probably seen these separate reviews on one channel or another, so you should know how this goes by now. Here are the score rankings and what they mean, and with that out of the way, let's go! How to make a first episode. Don't explain anything. 2D animation at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for establishing everyone's character trait. An asshole! How does one make Teen Titans Go look like Avatar? Saying wieners over and over again equals comedy. Remind me how and why this is on Nickelodeon. Everyone is an asshole part 2. I didn't know water looked like Microsoft Paint. Wow, what a waste of a good plot. Captain Man being horny equals comedy. I now just noticed how bad the voice acting is. Creepy innuendo plus an incest joke equals comedy. Facial joke equals comedy. A minor sniffing a male's ass plus vomiting equals comedy. Show, don't, tell. Ass pimples equal comedy. The fact that this is the best episode is sad. Grossing out the audience equals... Okay, you get the point. Phew. God, that show was a train wreck and a half. Anyways, here are the results. Not a single great, good, or meh episode to be found. Instead, we have 10 bad episodes, 9 terrible episodes, and 1 abysmal episode. With 51 points out of a possible 200 points for the season, dividing that by the number of episodes gives us 2.55 points, which slides this show right into the terrible category, and for very good reason. We'll see why as we count down the bottom 5 of the series, starting with Sticky Vicky. Aside from being a fest of badly made references to Ella Schneider's bakery shows, this episode presents a lot of gross out. Because the main villain of the episode, Sticky Vicky, hence the name, uses her saliva to trap people onto other objects or people. I, for one, am not a big fan of gross out humor. So this episode in particular did not appeal to me at all. However, this is probably the least actually terrible episode in the show's run, and that's not a good thing. Number 4, Texas Wieners. I was pretty close to picking Popcorn Monster, as that episode did a really bad job as the first episode. However, Texas Wieners is a lot more annoying and stupid. A big problem with the episode is that a sheriff is persistently chasing Captain Man and Kid Danger, and he always speaks with this annoying as all hell high-pitched western voice that never fails to just piss me off so much. However, the biggest problem with this episode has to be with the amount of times they say wieners in this episode. And you can probably guess why. And blah blah blah, SpongeBob did it better, blah blah blah, wieners is another word for dick, blah blah blah, moving on. Also, there's this one gag in this episode where Schwaz gets hit in the eye with a hammer. In all honesty, this is probably like the only time I'm grateful the show's animation is horrible, because if it wasn't, I'd imagine something a lot more grotesque than what the scene actually is. Number 3, Flying Spiders. Combining all of my knowledge on how to structure a story, the basics of a superhero show, and how other shows have managed to do a plot like this but much better and in a funnier way, I can say with 100% certainty that this episode is stupid, with very little plot and a fake-out ending. Absolutely stellar way to spend 11 minutes, bite me. Number 2, the Wahoo Punch Bro. A drunk Jerry Trainer pukes on everyone and Henry sniffs a man's ass. That's a basic synopsis of what this episode is, and I want to see that on the fandom page of the series. And yes, the series actually does have that, because this garbage show actually has a connection to this garbage show. Anyways, this is one of the 2 episodes of this show that's on my worst piece of media ever list, next to Ice Flowers the Sock video and TMNT Calamity. It's creepy joke after creepy joke, and the Wahoo Punch Bro vomiting on everyone wanted to quote-unquote quench their thirst is really disturbing, especially with the way he pins his victims to the ground to then vomit Wahoo Punch from his mouth. That sounds like a huge innuendo I am not aware of, and it would be very nice to keep it that way. The only way I recommend this episode to you is if you'd want to torture your eyes and ears with off-key singing and disgusting implications. Hey, it's almost like an SML video mixed with Larry Dies! And finally, number 1, YooHooTube. This is not only the worst episode of The Adventures of Kid Danger, but I think the worst episode of a children's cartoon I've ever seen. It is literally on par with something I'd see on Ice Flower Films. It's that bad. So, what happens in this episode? Well, one scene has Schwa swallow a cat and it struggles in his mouth as if he was using it for sexual purposes. After he swallows it, he then bends over and then spanks himself repeatedly. Let me remind you guys that this is an episode of a children's cartoon that aired on Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon! This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about when I constantly tell Plus Tubers to check their work, because this is unacceptable on every single level. Would it really cost that much time to go back into the scene, cut that part out, and then re-render the episode before the air date? Well, considering this Nickelodeon that we're talking about, probably. There's also this gag with the shampoo that can turn cats into guys, and one of them takes Charlotte out on a date. And it seems to me that someone on the show's staff has a really weird fetish for this kind of stuff, since these kind of jokes are everywhere in this show. Oh wait, it was made by Dan Hey Kid, I've Got Candy Hoppin' My Van Schneider. Of course it's going to have unfortunate implications in it. One of the many reasons I am glad Nickelodeon cut all ties with him. I am going to stop this rant right here for a fear of going on talking about this man for more than 5 minutes. Just stay away from this episode, and the whole show in fact. It's not worth your time, and it was not worth mine either.